Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Culture Study Podcast. This is episode 5. I'm your host, PD. That's PD for Professional Douchebag. And I'm back yet another week with more douchey comments on a douchey podcast. That's a great way to advertise this podcast, isn't it? But, I feel like for my sanity, I got to play around with it. I got to just have a little fun. That's the only way that I can truly keep doing this, keep enjoying it. Because once again, doing this without a co-host, it's not easy. It's like just talking out into the open air and no one talking back. And so, I got to get a little bit silly, a little bit weird if I want to sort of survive on my own, get a little bit crazy. In fact, I have the camera rolling right now. This isn't going to be a video podcast. I was just in the middle of filming some Patreon videos and my camera just happens to still be up. And I'm looking at myself and talking to myself basically while I'm recording this because it feels like I'm at least having a conversation with somebody. Hey, PD. Hey, PD, how are you doing? Last week I asked people to, go ahead and chime in the comments and let me know how everyone was doing. Sort of a little of a spot wellness check for the week. And I read everyone's comments and kind of broke my heart seeing how many people are just struggling. There were some people who had some good weeks or a good day going, and I'm glad. But so many people are going through such a tough time, and it is a tough year, isn't it? I've had my fair share of struggles, especially within the past few months. And I will say, part of the few saving graces has been, I guess, branching out and doing things that I'm a little bit more passionate about, or at least a little bit more interested in, like this podcast. So thank you, everyone who listens to the podcast and makes it a possibility to do this podcast. Last week, I put out into the field for people to ask me questions if there's not necessarily anything in the pop cultural zeitgeist to talk about. And this week has been a little bit, there's been a little bit of a lull in the news. Not much interesting has been happening. And so I put it out there. I asked people if there is anything you want me to talk about, anything you want me to discuss, please let me know. Let me know in the YouTube comments. I also put out the question on our Patreon just because a lot of the comments on YouTube were mostly the wellness check comments. And then it's kind of hard to sift through all those comments looking for questions. And so we also have our patrons asking some interesting questions as well. Last week I previously talked about my background, me being a Korean American growing up. A lot of people actually don't even know that I'm Korean myself, but I am. And, I know it doesn't sound like it because I have a perfect American accent when I talk, but I don't even know what accent I was doing there. It was like a mix of I was going for British and then I wound up doing Donald Trump. But I was born in Korea. And a big part of my upbringing, even though I moved to the U.S. at a fairly early age, a big part of my upbringing was staying in touch with my cultural roots. And so there is this comment from last week's podcast. I guess it's less of a comment and more of a question. This is from, and excuse me if I mispronounce your name, this is from Kusnul Riyadi. They ask, if you did watch a lot of Korean media when you grew up in America, how to get access to watch Korean channel on TV in American. Not quite sure, I guess, how to interpret that question. I'm not sure if they're asking how did I watch Korean media while in America, or if they're asking me currently, how can you get access to Korean entertainment? Right now, as it is, really the only way to get access to Korean entertainment is to either go through a paid subscription site like Viki, but Viki doesn't have everything, but Viki has a lot of everything. Obviously, Netflix is starting to put out some Korean originals, which is great. But in large part, I think most people, and correct me if I'm wrong, in large part, people use either Kiss Asian, which is a website. It is free, but it is filled with a ton of ads, or K Show 123. So you can Google either of these. I don't know if they're available in your region. If it isn't, a VPN would probably be the best method to do so. I don't want to promote piracy, mainly because I highly encourage paying for content. I highly encourage supporting and doing things the legal way. But Korean media has not been the most accessible things for international audiences. Like, for example, my favorite variety show, and really the only Korean show I do watch now, is Running Man. And Running Man, at least the past 190 episodes, are available on Viki. But the problem is, Running Man is like 600 episodes, man. And so there's like 400 old episodes that are not on Viki. There used to be an app called Drama Fever. Shout out to anyone who remembers the Drama Fever days. Drama Fever had all of the old Running Man episodes starting from episode 1. And I used to just rewatch the old episodes all the way to the new episodes and then do a full loop and then just rewatch the entire series. I have rewatched the entire Running Man series at least, I think, 3 times. But, Drama Fever, just one day overnight, boom, went out of business. No warning. And suddenly access to all of the old Running Man episodes became inaccessible. And it sucks because I love the old episodes with Gary in it, and I can't watch it. And I frankly do not use K Show 123 or Kiss Asian to watch Running Man because I can't handle all those ads. I do it for our Patreon if I need to, but in large part, I prefer to watch everything ad free. And so, it is a gripe of mine. It is hard to get access to Korean content, especially in a clean HD user experience. That's the hardest. But if it is a question of how did I watch Korean entertainment growing up, this is a culture so specific to Koreans, and I think a lot of Koreans, Korean Americans might be able to relate, but even Koreans themselves wanted access to the Korean content in Korea, but they couldn't get it. So how could they do it? How could Koreans watch the latest shows, right? There used to be a booming business. They would either rent out a commercial space next to like a Korean market, or they would have a section specifically within the Korean market where it was a Korean video store. And what these Korean video store owners would do is, one, they would have movies available too, yes, but whether it was a Korean TV show or a Korean variety show, they would, I don't know how they got access to it, but they had VHS copies. So they would record it over a VHS tape. And some of you might not even know what a VHS is if you're young enough. A VHS is basically, it's a videotape. It's a very old, archaic format that no longer is relevant. But back in the day, you could watch something and then as you're watching it, record it to a videotape, and you could rent the tapes out. And so when it came to a drama, within I think a week, or we were always a week behind in America. We were always a week behind on episodes of like TV shows or variety shows, but we would go like every Sunday and then we would rent, can I get, an episode of this? Can I get an episode of that? And then you would rent the videotapes for like a couple bucks. And it was a booming business back in the day. Obviously, digital really killed that business. I know those stores still exist, which is weird. And I have to assume like they're doing some funny stuff behind the scenes. But that was a big part of our culture. And that was how I largely consumed Korean entertainment growing up. So that answers your question. Now, I primarily, like I said, just watch everything via Viki. Primarily. because there aren't that many Korean shows to watch, honestly, in terms of like variety content right now. Running Man is really the only thing I follow. But yeah, so my week has been ridiculously long and strenuous and tired, and I just there have been a lot of issues. I took like a week and a half hiatus. I wasn't taking a break. I was just taking a hiatus from making videos. I had to pull apart my computer. I had to break down my set because we are moving internally. Basically, what we're doing is because I'm trying to commit to streaming, which means I need like a multiple computer setup, and like the camera situation is not friendly for streaming versus my reaction stuff. So we do have to split it up. And so I need multiple desks, I need multiple computers, and so I need a larger room. So my office was previously in a spare bedroom, and we swapped it out because we figured, I don't need a master bedroom this big. So my studio is now in my master bedroom, which is now just like one giant studio suite. And then my bedroom is now in the spare bedroom. And I like that because my bedroom feels a lot more cozier now. I feel like I'm getting a lot more of a deep sleep now, which is nice. But there was also construction going on. They were repairing our house during that time, and because they were repairing our house, a lot of drilling and a lot of hammering sounds going on. So I just couldn't film at all anyways. So in that time, I myself was learning woodworking, and I built my new desk that I'm using for streaming and everything. I'll probably do like a studio tour sometime in January or February when this whole room is up to standard. It's going to take a little time to get this up and running because it's going to take money to get the studio the way I want it to get it to. And right now we're going through some financial woes. We're going to break even this month, so I don't necessarily have the funds to put this all together. So that's not going to happen anytime soon, but hopefully sometime next month or the month after that. But it's been very physically tiring past week and a half, very laborious. And I do want to take a break, but I have no content backlogged. So So I'm just gonna work through it, and I'm just gonna work through the holidays, and I might take a break sometime like mid-January, and that's after I have some content pre-filmed, because I never want to just like leave you guys hanging without content for a week. You guys keep the lights on, so I feel like I do owe you guys in that regard. But let's do a little bit of a wellness check once again. How has your week been? This podcast is going to be coming out on, what's today, a Wednesday. So it's going to be coming out on a Wednesday. So let me know, it's the hump day, right? Let me know how your week has been going. If you're looking forward to anything, Christmas is going to be next week. So let me know how you guys are going to be spending your Christmases. And I want to give a shout out, by the way. I won't say her full name. I don't know if they want me saying their name, but I do have to thank somebody. I am going through some financial woes. It's been a financially difficult time because of COVID. My parents lost their entire business, and I'm supporting them financially, paying for their rent, additional bills, anything else they need. And so, I just ravaged my savings, and I'm just like completely out of money. And we're just now living paycheck to paycheck again, which I haven't done in a really long time. I think I haven't lived paycheck to paycheck since like March or April of this year. Since March or April, since COVID basically began, I have been slowly, steadily saving money, and I've been like trying to be financially smart. And then COVID happened, and then my parents have basically just ravaged through my savings. And, one of the disappointments of that was I really wanted to get a Christmas tree because I moved into a house this summer. I didn't buy this house. I don't have it nearly enough money for that. But we are renting this house, but it's still my first house, and I haven't celebrated Christmas since I was in like third grade. So I really wanted to get a Christmas tree and celebrate Christmas. It's been sort of like a childhood dream of mine. And I know it's kind of silly. There are more serious things going on in the world, but I was just very disappointed, and I felt like a failure as just a person, failure to be able to provide, like, I guess, for me, it's like I really want to have a family, and I just felt like a failure because it's like, how am I going to provide for my family, like food, education, stuff like that in the future when I can't even afford to get a Christmas tree, you know? And then, yeah, just, I aired my grievances on Patreon, and then this boss ass person, just sent a PayPal donation to cover the cost of a Christmas tree and some ornaments. And they were like, go get yourself a Christmas tree. And that person's name is Caitlin. And Caitlin, we are going to get a Christmas tree. If you're listening, we are going to get a Christmas tree, and we're going to get one of those reusable Christmas trees, and we're going to name it Caitlin. And because it's a reusable Christmas tree, we're going to, keep it for as many years as it lasts. And it's going to forever be, it's going to be my first Christmas tree, and it's going to be named Caitlin. And, we have you to thank for that. So special shout out to Caitlin for helping us through these holidays. It was just such a nice Christmas gesture. It's like such a Christmas thing, and I just felt really blessed. So I just wanted to give a shout out and say thank you very much for honestly making my holidays. I haven't picked out a tree yet, but I'm going to very soon. But I just wanted to say thank you very much. I do, not to make things dark, but I also want to give just like an additional shout out. Not that this is necessarily necessary, but I feel like just in this world, like I want to acknowledge kindness. 서강준, shout out to 서강준, because if you guys haven't heard, there was this comedian that passed away a few months ago. Her name is Park Ji-sun. Her and her mother passed away. No one is saying outright how she passed away, because people are respecting the family's privacy. But I think if you put two and two together, you can safely assume the circumstances of her death. But Seo Gang-jun had like this fan meet earlier this year. And the comedian Park Ji-sun, she was the MC for it, and she pointed out that Seo Gang-jun was actually really good at keeping his promises, because she actually hosted one of his previous fan meets and asked him to post like photos of his trip to Iceland or whatever, and then apparently like she checked the next day and he actually did. And this is actually really significant, because you're going to see, like, if you watch shows like Running Man or shows here and there, they always make these promises. It's like, oh, like can you like go to this restaurant and like take a photo, 인정샷, or like upload this photo, or like whatever. And like a lot of people don't go through with it, because it's just for the program or for the event. It's just like, oh, something you say, and then it's like once the event's over, it's like whatever, it doesn't matter. But Seo Gang-jun apparently did do that, and Park Ji-sun was the type of person who does check up on that. And so she said, all right, this time, when snow first falls this season in Korea, upload a selfie. It would also be nice if you took a selfie with your cats as well. And he promised that he would. And unfortunately, Park Ji-sun passed away before she was able to see first snowfall in Korea. But first snowfall was earlier this week, like December 13th or whatever. And he didn't say anything. He didn't, I don't think he even captioned the photo or anything. He didn't say RIP or anything. He just uploaded a photo of his two cats, and then uploaded a selfie of himself, and that was it. And he just fulfilled his promise. I don't think anyone would have batted an eye if he didn't, but he still did it. He held his promise to her, and I don't know, something about that was just so like heartwarming. I feel like we as a society, if we kind of, I'm not saying we should all like fulfill our promises to people who pass away, but like that kind of mindset of just like being kind and keeping our word and staying true to our word and thinking of others, I feel like it would just make society and the world better. And I feel like in a way, in a small little way, he did make the world a little bit better. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Seo Gang-jun. He's our, I don't know what to call him. I don't know what to call him. If anybody here ever watched the or I guess still watches the Philip DeFranco show, the PDS. He is a YouTuber on YouTube. He's had those segments of BAMF of the day or douchebag of the day. I want to do like a segment, sort of similarly to like, kind of not BAMF of the day, but or of the week. Something along the lines of just like our good-hearted person of the week. Something like that. But I would award that to Seo Gang-jun. And fun fact, I used to actually work for Phil. I can talk about that sometime in the future if anybody wants to hear that story. And, speaking of stories, I got this question on Patreon that's, I think, is sort of a relevant segue. This is from Seiji. They asked, have you met / talk to some idols / groups you'd never thought you'd be able to talk to? If so, what was your best memory? First of all, I only address publicly the people I meet if I guess I make a video about them. I don't ever address people that I meet behind the scenes. Or people that I have sit downs with, or like if I meet them in a casual setting, or if I meet them through a friend or whatever, just because I feel like that's not professional. Like you don't want to be known to be that person who gossips or spills or like, because then you also sound like a fucking like a clout chaser. It's like, oh, guess what? Like last week I sat down and had drinks with blah 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 blah. It's like, no. Like I feel like that's it's a very douchey thing to do. So I really only talk about people I guess I've worked with professionally. Well, I guess my answer to this question is not only because of that reason, like because I'm just trying to, I guess, be professional, but this is actually my genuine answer. Even if I did talk about all the people that I do meet, off camera, even if I did talk about people like that, my answer would still be people who I met on camera, which is LOONA. Meeting LOONA, and I guess I can tell you guys the full story now. People have wanted to hear the story about what it was like meeting LOONA, and there's more to the story than you would think. So there's actually two parts to meeting LOONA, and meeting LOONA, I would say LOONA is someone I never thought I would be able to meet or talk to. Definitely, for sure, in my goddamn life. I never thought that would ever happen. And meeting them was an experience. It was it was an emotional journey too. So I went to Korea last year, late 2019, and I went with a handful of other YouTubers. One of them being Briss, and we were working with my music taste to get some collabs going, to promote some other artists, and all of us got the same sort of like proposals, right? Oh, this group wants to do an interview with you, this group wants to do blah blah blah. Like or more so my music taste was pitching them to us, right? The one difference was that Briss also got pitched LOONA. And I'm a when it comes to that kind of stuff like business and whatnot, I don't really get up in arms about anything. I'm just like, yeah, whatever, I try not to get too jealous of like other people, but that was one where I spoke up. I was like, hold on, this is wrong. I was like, first of all, out of any of the YouTubers, the quote unquote K YouTubers, I have the biggest channel relating to LOONA. And like I'm not kidding. I pulled out numbers. I'm like, these are all my LOONA videos. These are all of Briss's LOONA videos. This is all of this is all of this YouTube. I have the biggest LOONA numbers on YouTube. How am I not being pitched this opportunity? I straight up went into that. And they were like, well, we don't know if blah blah blah, if anything can happen, whatever. And ultimately it didn't happen. And so Briss was the only one that got an interview with LOONA. And it meant a lot to me because LOONA is a group that I really, really care about. And so it actually genuinely hurt my feelings that I didn't get accepted because Briss has like triple my subscribers, right? And so I was like, oh, fuck, like that actually really genuinely hurts my feelings. And so Briss was going to go to this LOONA interview and I wasn't going to go. But like Briss was like, hey, come help with the shoot and whatnot. I'm like, I don't want to go. They probably don't even want me there. Like, why would they want me there? That's why they didn't pitch it to me. And he's like, no, just come, quit being a little bitch. And so I did wind up going with him. I was just like, fine. I tried to take that positive mindset of, okay, if at least I don't get to interview them, I want LOONA to have the best experience possible. Like I want LOONA to have the best interview with Briss as possible. So not only did I go to help Briss on his shoot, I directed Briss's shoot. I took charge. I took charge of like when we got to the interview spot, I was like, yo, where's the lighting? Where's the gear? I brought my own gear, I had the camera on Briss. I had the nice cameras on LOONA. I shot LOONA with my own cameras. And I conducted that whole thing. I was doing some translating for them a little bit. We had an official translator, so I didn't do a lot of the translating. So that's how that first encounter with them went. I met LOONA twice, so that's how the first encounter went. And it's a little bit funny because I did get a little embarrassed because I certainly don't look Korean, and LOONA. First glance, definitely did not think I was Korean because here I am, 6'2", super big guy, I was wearing like this long green trench coat as well with like a giant tiger insignia on the back. It's like a custom jacket that I have. And so, and then, I have my signature sunglasses, black hair, blonde ponytail. And so I look like the most non-Korean person you can get, right? And then, and then I wear like some gaudy jewelry, gold watches, gold chains, rings, and stuff like that. So, I was on set and I was directing everyone. I was like, move this, there, move, do that. I'm like directing people, and it was Kim Lip and I think Jinzor. It's whoever was sitting next to Jinzor, and she just suddenly starts like whispering into, not whispering, but like leaning over and like kind of saying in a quieter tone. He's like, oh, like he's so cool, like he's like, oh, he must be like some kind of like a foreign director or whatever. Like they assumed, so what LOONA assumed, or at least what Kim Lip assumed, was that I was Briss's like producer, like Briss's producer or director from like the States. And so they thought I was like there to like lead the shoot. Um, and then I started speaking Korean to them, and then that was like a whole embarrassing moment because like then I just like got really embarrassed, and then once like the other girls started coming in, I don't want to, I didn't want to put them on the spot, but some of the taller members tried sitting in the front, and uh in fact I think it was Shinzor that was the one I sort of embarrassed, who I can't remember. It was one of the taller members, but it was either Shinzor or Eve. They tried sitting in the front because we had 2 rows of stools, and I was like, uh, 저기요, 저기 진솔 씨, 저기 혹시 저기 뒤에 좀 앉을 수 있나요? 키가 너무 커가지고. And then like the moment I started saying that, so I was basically saying like could you actually please sit in the back because you're a little bit too tall. And then the moment I said that, she's like, oh, is it because I'm too tall? Yup, okay, got it. And then like it was this huge kind of like embarrassing mode. Like you could tell like she started laughing because like you could tell like she's been through this before. She's like, well, I should know better. Like she's like, I should know better. I'm a tall person. I can't sit in front. Like it was funny. It was funny. And then that whole shoot went by, and then I mean, first of all, shout out to Briss. Fucking what a good guy, because he knew that really meant a lot to me. And he knew that it was like kind of like really shitty that, you know, he got offered the thing just because he's a bigger channel, even though I kind of like promote them, you know, like a lot. And so, you know, I was like, okay, like, you know, can we get a, it wasn't for me. I was like, all right, once the shoot was like wrapped and once the interview was over, I was like, you know, can we, you know, get a photo, like you guys and Briss? And everyone was like, yeah. So like, you know, they're all crowded around Briss, and then we take a photo, right? And then after that, I was like, all right, you know, thank you. And then I was like trying to wrap up the shoot. And then Briss was like, no, hold on. Like, can he get a photo with you guys too? Like he's a big fan, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so then I got a photo with LOONA, because Briss like pushed for it. And, I'm super grateful. For that. And, I think there's like 2 or 3 photos of me with LOONA, and in one of them I'm like bending over laughing because it was Kim Lip again. I think she was behind me, and she says like, oh, like your hair's so cool, like because back then I had a blonde ponytail with black hair, and just, you know, Kim Lip complimenting me, you know, that kind of caught me off guard. So that like made me really embarrassed and really shy. And so like I laughed and kind of like healed over from embarrassment. So then that was my first experience meeting LOONA. And then I think, you know, I was in Korea for about 2 weeks. And then I think a few days later I got a message from one of the My Music Taste employees. They were like, hey, good news. So BBC actually like wants to do an interview with you. And so like there was this like whole pitching process. And a lot of my stuff got shot down. I wanted to do something that I thought the Orbit community would really like. But BBC was like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Mainly one of the pitches I had was there's a lot of LOONA memes, right? And so I thought, you know, I guess I was going more the direction of kind of like you know, like BuzzFeed or whatever. And it's like LOONA recreating their own memes, you know? So that was just basically going to be the video pitch. And they rejected it. Mainly because they don't want like their idols making, you know, ugly expressions. And I was like, I have class. I'm not going to make them do unflattering memes, but I understood they didn't want, it's one thing if fans crop memes from like a moment out of context. I think when the artist does it themselves, it's a little bit much. And so like, okay, I understood. Because, that's not even what I really wanted to do. If you guys saw my interview with the Rose, I wanted to do like really deep stuff, I wanted to do like a deep, thoughtful, insightful interview. I never thought they'd go for that, but they rejected the meme one. And so then I gave them a list. They were like, you know what? Can you give us just a list of stuff? And then we'll pick from there. And I gave them a list of stuff and I was like, okay, I want to pad out the list. So I threw in the deep dive concept and they actually wanted to do the deep dive concept more than anything else. And I was like, oh, shoot. So then, that's how the deep dive interview wound up happening. So then for the deep dive interview, so it was really stressful because I only had 2 hours with LOONA and my concept was so, by the way, I want to point out, LOONA came only for me on this shoot. I'm so fucking honored. LOONA, like, so how all the other shoots worked was, like, for example, if Ace arrived at the shooting zone, Ace did 30 minutes with me. They did 30 minutes with Briss. They did 30 minutes with Roseanne. Like all the artists came to do the artists had like a block of time, and that block of time had to be shared amongst all the YouTubers, right? LOONA came only to collaborate with me, and that was like, I was so honored. But I only had 2 hours with them, and there are X amount of members in LOONA. There's 12 members in LOONA, and basically that amounted to, I think I only had an hour with them. I think I only had an hour. No, I had, I think, 2 hours with them, which means I had roughly only about 10 minutes with each member. It was either 5 or 10 minutes. Sorry. It's COVID has been such a long year. The details are sort of getting muddy, but basically they gave me either a 1 or a 2 hour window, and I only had about 5 or 10 minutes with each of them. Basically, I set this extreme time restraint on myself because the time restraint wasn't exactly necessary, but I wanted to, I was the one that was like, I want to interview them individually one by one. And they were like, are you sure? And I'm like, they're like, can you get them out within this time frame? I'm like, I can try. And so I was bustling my ass. I was literally interviewing them on the fly. Like, I had a list of questions, and I realized I could only ask half of the questions if I wanted it done within the time frame that I wanted it to. But I wanted the video to be like diverse, and like I wanted to like cut between people answering different questions. And so what I had to do when I was interviewing LOONA is I had a preset of about 2 or 3 questions, like on how I would start talking to them and I would approach them. And then within those 2 or 3 questions, I had to immediately gauge their personality and like gauge how they would respond to certain type of questions. And then mentally, I would only ask them certain questions based on how they answered the first 3 questions. I'm like, oh, okay, they would be better with these type of questions. They would be better with these type of questions. And so that's how I had to conduct that interview. And it was so stressful, especially because I was running like a really, 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 really intense camera setup. And we had to dump footage on the fly. Oh my goodness. I don't think I've talked about this before. We lost like, I don't remember which member it was. I don't even want to remember because it was so traumatic. In the middle of transferring footage, I was so, and this is a tip for any budding videographers or filmmakers, never delete footage during a shoot. Never delete footage during a shoot. You might think, oh, I don't need this. Oh, this is that footage, blah, blah, blah. I deleted footage because I was like, I'm going to create some extra space on my hard drive. And I deleted footage. And I deleted a certain angle. I deleted like a certain angle for a handful of the LOONA members. And I had to, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I had to basically edit around it, basically. And the editing I had to do to make that work was insane. Oh my God, that LOONA video was so hard to put together. But yeah, after that, I was in such a rush, but I got to interview them all. I talked to them all. My personal experience talking to Eve, I think, was the most insightful. I had another guy there with me, and he and I just wanted another Korean person there in case there was like during the interview, because I conducted the interview with them, so I was the one talking with them. Just in case that like there were some words or I just couldn't figure out how to convey like a deeper nuance into a question. So, I had another Korean guy there, but after talking with Eve, if you guys should watch my diving deeper interview with LOONA. After that interview, we both went like, holy moly, she is like super insightful, and it was kind of mind blowing. Like the way she thinks is like really, really insightful. And we were just thinking about like, wow, if she was not an idol, she could be like either a newscaster or like a politician. Like the way she's so well spoken when talking about really deep subjects is incredible. And credit to BBC. Like I thought they would cut some stuff, just because certain companies don't want certain types of things. I thought they wouldn't want the part. I thought they would make me cut out the part with Hyunjin. Like I think from that entire interview, I think the biggest takeaway that people enjoy is Hyunjin talking about, well, see, I wanted to, there's this question I ask is, if you could go back in time and, be a member of LOONA again, would you still do it? After all that you've been through. And I wanted it to be like this inspiring moment at the end of the video where everyone says, yes, 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 yes. And then Hyunjin just goes, I want to be a soldier, And she just totally, like, it's one of those things you can't script or plan. Like she just totally threw a wrench in the whole thing. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so funny. Like Orbits are going to love this. And I put that cut in and I thought, there's no way BBC lets me keep this. They're going to think, from I was thinking in their perspective of like, oh, we don't want fans to think that Hyunjin is saying she doesn't want to be a member of LOONA anymore. We don't want any kind of misunderstandings. I thought that's where they were going to come from. Nope. I think in large part, they only wanted me to make different cuts and different angle cuts, but they didn't make me take out anything in terms of the dialogue or the content. So, shouts out to BBC for that. Cherry was a really fun person to interview. I love the way Cherry speaks. She speaks like a cartoon character. Like she's like, na 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 na. No. I was just like, even when the cameras were off, it's also largely to do with like she's very polite, and very friendly. But I just thought like, wow, you are exactly you're exactly what you are like on camera. I think what was the most surprising to me was probably Yeojin. Yeojin was the most mature out of everyone. Yeojin was super well spoken. Her voice was also the deepest. Not that matters, but her voice was the deepest. But also, she was just like, the most like mature and quiet, but not quiet because she was shy, but quiet because she was like, she just gave off like this really, really mature energy. And I was just like, wow, she's a kid. But like, I could tell like she is so like big brain and so thoughtful and so mindful, And like, even like, I don't know if it comes off in the video, but like when I was interviewing Yeojin, when she's giving her responses, it's like kind of slow and very thoughtful. Like I could tell like, oh wow, like this means a lot to Yeojin. Like not that I'm saying like it means any less to the other LOONA members, but like in person, I could really feel it coming off of Yeojin. Like, wow, she like this is special to her. What was interesting was also talking to Chu, because like I said, Chu is she's also one of those people that is kind of exactly what she seems like on camera. Much more toned down, because we did tell her, this is sort of meant to be like a heartfelt interview, like a deeper interview. So that's what we told her. And she did generally kind of like was a little bit more mellow, but I remember, so at the end, I was wrapping up and I was leaving, and it happened to be around the same time that the LOONA members were leaving. So then when I had come up and I was leaving the building, they were also leaving. So then I kind of like stepped aside to like, let them go. And so they were all saying goodbye to me. We were like exchanging, pleasantries. And then Chu was the last one to get on, to get in the van. And she did that thing where she was waving. First of all, she like, there's that fucking, that joke that Chu always does, that 안녕히 계세요, 여러분. Not that, like she didn't say that out loud, but like it had that same energy where she was getting in the van. They were at least, the van was like pulling away. So it was like at least 10, 20 feet away at this point. Chu looks back. She waves at me with both hands, but she doesn't wave at a normal speed. She waves like really, really fast at an incredibly enthusiastic speed while she's smiling really wide. And like her eyes were doing those things, where she closes her eyes while she smiles. She was waving really enthusiastically like that while she got in the van. And it just made me laugh. And I thought that was freaking hilarious. Let's see. Kwon does not look human in person. I don't mean that in an insulting way, but like she looks like a mix between a doll and also a Final Fantasy character. I'm not kidding. She walks in, I mean, the outfit she was wearing, I was just thinking like, she's dressed so like regally, like she looked so royal, and her head shape is really weird. Like, I don't want to flex, but like, you guys don't understand how unrealistic and how perfect Kwon actually looks until you meet her in person and she is face to face with you. I'm serious. Her head looks like it was perfectly sculpted. I'm like, what? I don't know. They were like, I'm not saying that the other LOONA members have imperfections, but Kwon was perfect. Her head was perfect. Her face was perfect. I was like, what? She looks so perfect that she has to be fake. Is like, again, like like a Final Fantasy animation character. It's like, this is like a weird realm of like crossing that uncanny valley of realism, and that threw me off a lot. And the way she talks is definitely like really small energy too, but it's also like really well spoken and very polite. I mean, the best person to talk to in terms of just like overall was Heejin. Me and the other guy that was there, we talked about this. Like Heejin, we were like, oh, she's a seasoned professional. Like she had not only has she been trained really well, but like she just knows how to talk really well and give interviews really well. And like she has like these like preconceived like this preconceived thoughts. Like you guys might not know this, but for a good actor, celebrity, or idol, you actually have to be like someone who's good at interviews are people who are actually already armed with different anecdotes. And Heejin is already armed. Heejin is ready for interviews. And so that was what was so interesting to me because we were asking really thoughtful questions and she was already busting out thoughtful answers. Like I didn't even have to cut out like her doing like any kind of deep thinking or anything like that. Yeah, so overall my experience meeting LOONA was extremely positive. It was filled with heartbreak in the beginning, and then the second time meeting them, it was I turned my professional hat on. I never like fangirled in front of them. I never was like, oh my God, you guys are my, I never did any of that in front of them. I was professional. I was courteous. A handful of them were extremely surprised that I was speaking fluent Korean. Because before the interview started, I introduced myself and like we were talking, and they were like, "Oh, you're so good at Korean," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Korean," and they were like, "What?" But yeah, that was the whole thing. But yeah, that was my experience meeting LOONA. It was a fun, positive working experience, and that's still been my favorite sort of interaction with any idol or celebrity to date, in terms of just like all of that. Also, I want to, before we wrap up the podcast, like, wow, we already went a whole hour just like talking about that whole experience. But something I want to talk about, there was a huge controversy plaguing the K-pop industry, and this was brought to us by one of our patrons, Annie. Let me just read their entire question. Lately, there has been a debate raging throughout the K-pop world, brought to everyone's attention by an innocent yet loaded question to G-Friend during one fateful Dingo interview. The girls went wild. Soon, their arguments spread through the industry like wildfire, tearing apart groups, friends, family, and fans alike. Neither side can be swayed. No answer has been definitively given. So answer me this. Do people have one butt or two butts? Okay, so this is a debate that is going on in the idol industry. Do people have one butt or two butts? So this whole thing stems from, I watched the clip, and this whole thing stems from Yuju was basically explaining you have two arms, right? And you have two legs. And each leg is connected to a buttock, right? So do you have one butt or two butts? Is your butt defined by each individual buttock? What is a butt? And it's the kind of big brain five head question that, definitely works for me, because like these are like the wild, mundane, asinine questions, no pun intended, that I ask myself all the time. And I don't think I was any one side or the other. I never lived my life thinking I have one butt or I have two butts, it's just I have a butt, But after seeing this debate and after seeing this whole argument, I gotta admit, Yuju's right. People have two buttocks. It's two. You have two buttocks. You have two butts. All right. I think we for a long time have been just saying butt as a singular, like in the same way as like it's not like the animal deer. It can be both singular and plural. I think the word butt can also be singular and plural. And so you say, hey, you touched my butt, but you're referring to both things, or you're referring to one single cheek. But I think we have two butts. Now, I want to pass that question off to you in the audience. Guys, do we have one butt or do we have two butts? If you want more insight into the argument, I would look into this. But 우주소녀's 여름, 설아, idols, Sujin and Mion, they have also commented on the subject. I don't know where everyone stands, but you know where I stand. I am a two buttocks type of person. All right. I would love to know where everyone stands in the comments. So whether you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify, go ahead and go to the YouTube video and let us know where you stand on the buttocks debate. I personally believe in two butts. I didn't before, but Yuju really did sway me. Oh, you know what? There's actually another interesting question from Bowsy Art. And I think I can provide some cultural context into this. So Bowsy Art says, okay, this is quite childish in my opinion. What are your thoughts on idols smoking? Recently, many idols were caught doing that and people got mad. I don't know who they're referencing to. But they said, I lost so many brain cells when I read comments / posts like, you disappointed me, I hate you now, etc. I mean, personally, I would get worried first because smoking affects their job and health, which is obvious. However, we never know why they even started smoking. It could be curiosity and all that, but it could also be depression / anxiety, etc. So yeah, what are your own views in general on this topic, and what kind of comments do you think the idols should receive when they were caught smoking? Okay, so I think from an outside perspective, some of us might be like, why are people freaking out so much over smoking, right? Well, smoking has changed in vogue a lot in Korea within the past decade. So here's the thing. Smoking has been culturally synonymous with Koreans for a really, really long time. Let me just tell you how integrated smoking is into Korean culture. I started smoking, I don't smoke anymore, but I started smoking, I had my first cigarette when I was 15. And, I was living by myself. I didn't live with my family. And I was on the phone with my mother and I told her, so I started smoking. And I thought she would freak out. I thought she would just get mad or whatever. But her response was, what? You weren't already smoking? And I was like, no, why would you think that? She's like, well, I mean, I just assumed you would have already started smoking by now. And that's just kind of like a big part of the Korean attitude. It's just like Korean smoke, a lot of Korean smoke. But here's the thing, within the past 10 years, there has been especially with the introduction of vapes, a lot of Korean people have become adverse to smoking. People are becoming very anti-smoking in Korea. It's sort of, and a lot of people you're going to see nowadays, there are more people vaping or using e-pens in Korea than they smoke cigarettes. And that might not sound wild to so many of you, who, especially if you live in the Western world where people vape all the time, but you don't understand. Like, I'm talking like adults, dads, moms, like everyone is mostly using vapes, and people are largely trying to move off of cigarettes. And so this whole "you disappointed me, I hate you now," why did people have such a visceral response to this? Well, it's primarily because you have to understand the Korean train of thought and the Korean logic. So that feeling comes from, oh, this is fact now. Like, we all have like sort of agreed upon, this is stupid, this is bad for you. So like the fact that you're doing it disappoints me. Like, Koreans are very matter of factual. Koreans are very like clean cut, and it's like, once we have accepted, oh, we're not into smoking anymore, that's it, like regardless of like whether you're smoking for depression or anxiety, that excuse could be made for, different types of drugs, right? Not that I'm comparing smoking cigarettes to like cocaine or anything like that, but it is undoubtedly that cigarettes have zero positive health effects, and it is entirely largely negative. And even if, let's say, you do use it for anxiety or depression, first of all, there are other methods, right? And if you don't pursue those other methods, Koreans are going to view you as, well, you're just dumb. You're just being stupid, That's just kind of like how the Korean mindset works. It's like, it's bad, so why are you doing it? I know that's kind of a really hard concept to grasp for a lot of people, but it's also just like, it's just the Korean way of like, some Koreans, a large part of Koreans, we have like a very logic driven sort of side where it's just like, just don't do it is kind of like the mindset of Korea. Just don't do it, And it's kind of like, if you look to stuff like COVID, it's why they were able to handle COVID so well. It's just like, hey, this is just basic knowledge. Just don't do it. Don't go out. Like, don't, like, I guess COVID is a great example to give you. It's like, hey, social distance and wear a mask, very common knowledge, right? Very common practice. And so it's like, all you have to do is just do that, and that's it. And you're going to be safe. And yet still in America, we have people who, this to be the case. And you have people who will still preach masks and social distancing. Like my friend is constantly going out and partying, and he is one of those people that is, like, anti-Trump and, like, oh, COVID's bad, wear a mask, assholes, blah, blah, blah. And yet he's also part of the majority still going out, breaking social distancing rules and, not really helping the cause, And I look at him and I think, I hate you. You're an asshole. And that's similarly the comparison and the sort of mindset is like, hey, this is bad, like we've hit, like, I think it's more so like, it's more so, hey, we've moved past this. Like, we have become woke enough about smoking. We have become woke enough, and we have put to rest this problem of like, hey, we put this behind us already. We've already discussed that, smoking is just a no-no now. So why are you still doing it? So it's multiple levels. And also just, obviously there's the level of holding idols to a higher degree and a higher pedigree. And it also makes the idols look more stupid as well, because Baozi, as you point out, you're a singer, right? And you're a singer and you're doing something that has zero positive health benefits, but also directly affects your lungs, which affects your careers, And so it's just like, first of all, any person smoking is dumb. That's kind of like the way it looks in Korea now. But it's also like, you're a singer. You look even more dumb. So it's just like a very foolish thing, and it comes off very hypocritical too, I would say, like, think of like, it's not just that like the idols are being held to a higher standard. The idols preach the higher standard, the idols are, and I agree in some regards of like, when you become an idol, first of all, we should treat our idols to be more human. They're allowed to make mistakes, etc. But when you become an idol, you are also assuming a job that has a level of social responsibility. And it's why so many people got mad when idols went clubbing in Itaewon and stuff like that, and idols broke social distancing guidelines. When Yuna went karaokeing with somebody else, it's like, you're supposed to set the example. So that's the thing. It's like, you're setting a bad example. You are supposed to be setting the gold standard of being a model citizen, because I think that's what a lot of people don't realize about the Korean perspective of idols as well, is that you're also sort of becoming a honestly like a public servant of sorts. You are supposed to be an inspiration for people. And so when you are promoting something that is, it's not controversial, it's just straight up, hey, this is a bad thing, of course they're going to catch flack. They shouldn't have done that in the first place. And, people's mindsets of saying like, oh, like I hate you, that's ridiculous. But being disappointed in them, I actually wholeheartedly agree with that, because you have to understand the culture in Korea now. Smoking is largely looked down upon now. Smoking, like, I mean, it should be. It should be. Smoking is, I mean, we're in 2020. Like, regardless of whatever your reasons were to start, I had my reasons for why I started smoking. It's like, regardless of what it is, it's just, first of all, you shouldn't even start nowadays. There shouldn't be any position or anybody encouraging you to start. But I just feel like it's 2020. It's like we've moved past this. It's like smoking is no longer in vogue. It's largely negative. And so that's sort of like the mindset in Korea. But also, again, there's that added thing of, hey, you are assuming the responsibility of being a public figure. Yeah, you shouldn't be smoking. Not in the sense of like you can't have any freedom or stuff like that, but smoking is straight up a bad thing. It's straight up a bad thing. And if any one of our idols did any other type of bad thing, smoking just happens to be legal. But if our idols did a bad thing that was illegal, we would reprimand them, right? And so that's kind of how it is. That's the best way I can describe it. I don't know if I described it well, but yeah, Koreans are also, we're very strict. And we do hold people to a higher standard. But the way I see holding people to a higher standard is we're just trying to make people be their best. That's sort of the mindset I have as well, and perhaps that's the Korean in me. But I always push myself, and I always want to try and be the best version of myself as possible. Which is why I'm clinically depressed all the time, because I'm not. But if there was ever a moment to end the podcast, that would be it. Guys, we're over an hour in now, but that's it for episode 5 of the Culture Study podcast. We shared my tales regaling of my first time meeting LOONA. We also talked and answered multiple questions regarding some Korean culture. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this podcast. Next week, we might have a special guest. So, I don't want to get your hopes up, but we might have a special guest. So stay tuned in. And if you were curious as to who PD loves more than Chong'an, the answer is coming soon. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.